on the line?
I'm here.
All right, great. I think you've heard all the ground rules now. We're going to schedule this to be 15 minutes to 5:33. If you want to give an opening comment, then we can move to questions. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Chairman Mendez. With me today are other members of our General Services team, Diana Atwood, Laurel Creech, Velvet Hunter, Mike Leonard, Randall Jones, and Stacy Wall. So they're on this WebEx in case we need to ask them some questions. First of all, I want to thank you for this opportunity to have a conversation around the FY21 proposed budget request. We understand the challenge before you, and we appreciate the work you're doing on behalf of Nashville. I also wanted to take this time to thank the mayor and his team for the budget process they implemented with Metro agencies this year. This process was one of the best that I've ever participated in during my career. Countless hours were spent gaining knowledge about agencies and listening to our needs. We in General Services were very excited about the direction Metro was moving in. However, today we are in a very different place than expected. Employees of General Services are grateful that this budget request does not include layoffs, and it is one that we can manage within. In looking at our budget request, the most significant change in the budget is the increase noted in fleet. Last year during our budget hearing, I discussed a pilot project with Firestone for maintenance and repairs. This change was necessary due to challenges with recruitment and retention of mechanics. Also, turnaround time was becoming an issue without the appropriate staff. A state contract was available to us, and we negotiated a 20% discount on top of the state's pricing. So by going to this new business model, we now offer 15 garages across Davidson County to Metro employees instead of the one at the fleet at our fleet garage. Of course, by making this business change, our turnaround time has improved, which is good. With vehicles being repaired quicker, then we are spending money faster. Another contributing factor to this request is the increased maintenance cost to the age of our fleet, due to the age of our fleet. The average age of the vehicles is around 8 years. And with an aging fleet, you would absolutely anticipate additional repairs. The other budget items included are contract escalation obligations in the area of fleet and building operations, additional operating funds for public works equipment being added to the fleet, and building operating funds for Fire Station 32 and 37. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Glover was first. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Director. Very quickly, I think I have two quick questions. Number one would be specifically with the fire department, which I think you just referenced Station 32, what's going on there. So I'm actually going to flip the questions in the order I was going to ask them in originally. Those overruns and the cost in buildings, et cetera, of overruns, how are they dealt with? That's the first question. Second of all, would we be better off in order to, and I realize we're using Bridgestone for like police and other fleet automobiles, but fire department, I still see a lot of equipment out there that's not the newer equipment. Would we be better off to have a dedicated staff to deal with those specific and that specialty of a vehicle? And with that, thank you, Chair. I appreciate it.
Okay, as far as overruns, I'm not really sure what you're talking about on building overruns. Can you give me some additional information?
Yes, if we have overruns on a given building, does it come out of operational, or do we have to add to the capital budgets, which I'm assuming it is capital?
So you're talking about construction overruns?
Yes.
Okay, that would be capital. The operating money that we have here is for the maintenance, janitorial services, those day-to-day kind of operations is just what we're asking for here.
All right, well, then, let me kind of rephrase it because I didn't ask the question very well. when there is overruns, when things aren't working right, does it require overtime from any of your departments to oversee the building projects? Forgive me for not asking the question well.
Well, as far as us overseeing a project, it would be the length of the project, but we don't pay overtime for our staff to do that.
Okay. Then the next question is, would we be better off to have a dedicated staff to work on specialized equipment such as fire engines, trucks, ambulances, et cetera?
Yeah. So Stacy may want to jump in on this question, but we do have a staff that's dedicated to the fire department. We work very closely with them. We have a good partnership with Brian Jones and the folks in that department around fleet, and we have that staff that is available just for fire equipment. Now, if it's a fire truck or a fire, depending upon the repair that needs to be done, there are times that we would have to send engine repairs or something out like that out to a vendor. Stacy, if you want to add anything, please jump in.
That's correct. We do have dedicated staff just for the fire engines and ambulances, and as well as small fleet, of course, goes to Bridgestone. But we have several vendor contracts as well to help us out with specialized equipment for fire.
Any follow-up?
Thank you, Chair.
All right. Thank you, Councilman Glover. Councilmember Bradford.
Thank you, Chair Mendez and Director Whitmore. My question is, in response to your comment about our aging fleet, do you have any documents or any plans that you can share with the council as far as what your timetable is for the next vehicles that need to be replaced and kind of what you're looking at and what it would cost to replace with newer, more fuel efficient or better vehicles?
Absolutely. We have a replacement plan that has criteria for different types of vehicles, different classes. We have been talking about this for several years, that this replacement plan is behind because of funding. If we were to replace everything that was on that replacement plan today, it would be over $100 million that we would need. So as we get capital money or 4% money, we prioritize that what's on the replacement plan with departments and come up with a plan that we submit to you all when we're asking for additional money. So it is a challenge right now, and it is one like with the codes. Bill Herbert just talked about their need for vehicles. And because, we did not have the funding to go out and purchase additional vehicles, we came up with a different strategy for him just because they could fund that. But we are behind on our replacement plan.
Okay, just as a brief follow-up, for non-emergency vehicles, have you looked into, when you replace vehicles, replacing them with either electric or hybrid vehicles to help not only with environmental factors, but to kind of cut down on fuel costs?
Yes, we purchase, we have several, we have, I guess, around 20 electric vehicles in the fleet right now. We have several hybrid in the fleet. One of the things that the council you passed last year was a plan for electrifying the fleet, and we were working toward that. Of course, it takes money to fund those purchases. Anytime you do a electric vehicle, the cost of it is more, and then having the infrastructure in place too is something that would have to be looked at. But we have a plan, and I'm happy to submit that to you so you can see the type of vehicles that we have, how many we have in greening our fleet, and what the plan is to electrify the fleet. I can send that to you.
I would appreciate that. Thank you. That's all my questions, Chair.
Thanks. And if you could make sure to copy Mr. Cooper in the council office, we can get that online for everybody too. Councilmember Suara.
Thank you, Chair. My question is similar to Councilmember Glover, but in a different way. I'm looking at your Internet Service Fund. My understanding is that that fund is where you charge other departments for usage of your services. And historically, the amount that you spend in that fund is also what you bill out and you collect it from all the internet transfers and all the other departments. But looking at your FY21, you have your operating expenses in the Internet Service Fund to be $25 million. But the program revenue that you're budgeting to bill out is only $24 million, so there's a 1.5 difference. So my question is, one, why is that a difference? Why is not everything projected to be spent or expense not billed out and collected? And in a year that we have a difference like that, is such a difference absorbed in the general fund?
That is coming out of our fund balance. It's not being absorbed in the general fund. Diana, do you want to speak more to that?
Yeah, it's where we are. We have fund balance for the Office of Fleet Management, and instead of billing $1 million of that, we're going to be using fund balance to cover it.
So my follow-up question is, and I know you guys are good at what you do, so please pardon me. In previous years, we've always been able to build it out, and the other department are using the services. Is there any reason why this FY21 is different?
Yes, that is because of what I just talked about, that we went to the new program where we're using Firestone, Bridgestone, and because we're repairing cars and vehicles faster, that we're spending money faster. We have not increased our rates for fleet in many years, so this is just to offset that, making cars available and vehicles available in a more timely fashion to departments, instead of having one garage where our turnaround time was suffering due to lack of staff. And so this is it's a factor of cars going in to 15 different garages and being turned out much quicker.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councilmember. And it looks like Councilmember Henderson will last in the queue, last question of the day. Go ahead, Councilmember.
Thank you, Chair Mendez. Director Whittemore, I am just looking at your questionnaire, so admittedly not in the budget book itself, but I see that you had 164 FTE budgeted for this current year. You have 57 positions unfilled, and then the mayor's proposed budget has you at 162. So I'm also seeing a 5.7% increase in your budget just kind of across the board. And so I wonder, can you speak to the unfilled positions? Does that tie into what we've been discussing throughout this hearing related to the contract with the Firestone garages? And if so, and that process is working well, you feel like that's a good contract, you've negotiated it well, and we're seeing improvements, whether in codes or in your department as well. Why then are we still budgeting to get kind of all those positions back, and you have an increase in your budget? Can you speak to that, please?
I sure can. Thank you. The 57 positions, out of those 47 positions are fleet. We are using that money to offset the repairs and maintenance with Firestone Bridgestone. When you look at the labor costs, there's not a lot of difference between our labor costs versus theirs. It's $92 versus $95. But we needed that funding to be able to go to this pilot or go to this program. We could actually reduce the number of positions, but we would need to we would need that funding to fund the Firestone Bridgestone program.
Does that answer your question, Councilmember? Any follow-up?
Apologize, I've remuted myself instead of unmuting myself. I appreciate that those FTEs are being used to offset the cost of the program in this interim. But am I understanding then that you're not necessarily committed to continuing in this fashion? I guess I wonder, just from a budgetary purpose or standpoint and transparency, to look at in this time, when we're all being asked to kind of, cut and conserve, that you have these 57 unfilled positions. And so I understand how they're being utilized now, but going forward into the next budget year, do you feel that it should still be structured in this way, where you've basically got FTE being used to offset services that are being provided through the Firestone contract? I just wonder why we're not kind of adjusting this so that it's more clear what's happening. Can you just?
We are okay with those FTEs going away as long as we have the funding. The funding is needed to offset the Firestone Bridgestone program. We feel we've done the evaluation of this program, and we feel like this is it has been in Metro's best interest. If you look across the country and what state governments are doing, and other private companies and other cities, most of them have gone to this kind of business model. So if the FTEs could certainly go away if the funding stayed in our operating money budget.
Okay, and so then it would just basically require a line item in your operating budget, correct, that would speak to it just programmatically, right? That would be for the fleet repair partnership program, et cetera. So is there anything that precludes you from adjusting your budget to reflect more specifically kind of what's happening in this moment, rather than just retaining these as unfilled FTE positions that are offsetting a programming cost?
I am okay with those FTEs going away.
Okay. I appreciate the clarification. Thank you.
Thanks, Councilmember. All right. Ms. Whittemore, and like the other departments, we want to make sure to thank you and your entire general services and fleet management team. These are extraordinary times, and we appreciate your efforts on behalf of the city. Please thank everybody on your team for us.
Will do. Thank you.
All right, and council members, we're going to leave open the Q&A session in the WebEx for just a couple minutes. If you think of any last-minute questions, you can have a minute or two to type them in, and otherwise that will be a wrap for today. We obviously have got council meetings on Monday and Tuesday next week, and we pick up the last 2 days of these budget hearings on Wednesday the 20th, starting at 4 o'clock, and Thursday the 21st at 4 o'clock. And with that, we'll be done for today. Thanks, everybody.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information about this and other programs, visit nashville.org.